back, everyone. Welcome back to Dad Space, the place where dads get together and talk to dads, about dads, with dads, all the time. On Dad Space, Cory Jenks is here. He's a free-range human, so I kind of like this. And we're going to talk about not sucking so bad in the life of a dadness, right? Hey, Cory, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. What better way to introduce me with, Cory's here to help you not suck in his. But some days as a dad, that's the best you can hope for. I'm in the fire hose stage of rearing kids. Mine are all 6 and under. I got 3 of them. I got a 6, a 3 and 3/4, and a basically 11-month-old baby. So there's very little break. So some days, the best I can hope for is to suck.
And your newest edition, not a baby in human form, but a baby in a book form. Tell us about your book. Come on.
Yeah, so this is my second book baby, if you want to call it that. So it's called I Guess I'm a Dad Now, a humorous handbook for newish dads who don't want to suck. So if you like, wow, he really hit to the not sucking part early. Well, that's sort of the tagline to my book. And so it's a book that I was inspired to write as in the midst of a transition. Being a little free-range human, I cut from full-time to part-time. My day job as a pharmacist about a year and a half ago as we recorded this in April of 24. And with that, I got a lot of time to spend with my kids at the park. I could observe things like other parents and other dads who were on their phones ignoring their kids. And I thought, that's not great. There's a joke here. There's an interesting insight here. And so in addition to my career as a dad, an author, pharmacist, I'm a comedian. So the book, if you can't tell by the title, is meant to be funny and helpful. So that's the origin story of that book, and we could talk about what's in there. We could talk about other dad stuff, but a lot of humorous things happen when you're a dad.
Okay, well, we're definitely going to have a good conversation. Let's start off with your dad story. The moment you found out you're going to be dad for child number 1, what was some of the emotions? What were some of the things, the fears, the excitement? Tell me, if you could bottle it all up as a pharmacist here, what was the prescription of you as a dad?
Well, I think the prescription I've learned as a pharmacist with every medicine is any medicine can cause any side effect to anybody at any time. Okay. So you're my past results of becoming a dad are not not going to be guaranteed for you listening in the future. But for me, we found out we were going to have a kid. It was I joke about this in the book, but it didn't take long. For all those people who have unfortunately had to take a long time to become a dad, this is not to rub in your face. It's more a joke on myself of like, this is the last chance my wife and I had to be alone, before a kid. And it didn't take that long. I would have minded a little bit more work to make a baby. Yeah. You're careful what you wish for. But it was a morning before work, early 5 o'clock, 5:30. And my wife goes to the bathroom, lays a little strip out on the counter. I was like, oh, that's cool. Already, huh? Well, I got to get ready for work. Like it was like, I didn't really, I think when you say bottle it up, I think that's a lot of what I do. I don't say it like, I don't think I bottle things up emotionally in a bad way. I think I compartmentalize things so that I can handle the task at hand and then deal with that emotion at the time that I can. And so I was off to work. My day job was calling. And then it's like, okay, we're having a baby. Okay, what do we need to do? Oh, we should start to prepare. Yeah. That sort of stepwise realization of what's to come. And so it was exciting. It was something my wife and I had lived a pretty happy, we'll call it DINK life, the dual income, no kid life for several years, and realized that the deal I made with my wife is when the Cubs win the World Series, we can have kids. And I was like, I think I'm pretty safe not having kids. And then 2016 happened. They win the World Series, and a couple years later, we got our first boy.
There you go. So thanks to the Cubs.
Thank you to Ben Zobrist for that 10th inning double down the line. That sealed the deal for us. But I don't want it to make it sound like I was not excited. I think that this is my comedic approach to things and sort of a pragmatic approach is when you're becoming a dad, it's exciting. There's a lot of emotion, but there's also a certain amount of preparation you need to do logistically. Who's going to watch the baby? Who's going to be home with it? How are we going to feed it? Where's it going to live in the house? And fortunately, I married a very pragmatic woman, and we kind of handled these things and cleared our mental space to be with our kids instead of worrying about the extraneous stuff that can come with having a kid.
So the amount of learning and teaching and schooling to be a pharmacist, oh my gosh. And then when you compare that to becoming a dad, the amount of training ability to learn, resources, there's not as much, right? We have more tools to teach us how to be to do work and find a career, but we don't find as many tools to be a dad. So I like the idea your book's out there to help us with this, but what were your tools early days, finding out you're going to be a dad? What did you go to? Where were you drawn?
We talk. You go to the stories of the other people with kids. So we had friends who had young kids, and again, your listeners are going to think like, "Wow, this guy's a jerk." But like we have a couple that had a couple kids already, and they're like, "Don't do it. It's so much work. Like enjoy. Like you can say no to this and just live your life." And we're like, "No, we want to do it." So, but we obviously we have kids, and so we would talk to them and. What do you really need? Because when Target or Walmart finds out that you're having a kid, it's like, well, here's 1,000 things to add to your registry that you really don't need, but it'll make us a lot of money. So you talk to we have a very great group of friends, like a little friend tribe we have they're just really practical. So we chatted with them. I didn't talk a lot to our parents. We didn't really go to them for advice. It'd been so long since they were in the baby game, but went to there, and then we read a few books. I think we read maybe 3 or 4 parenting books. We didn't go deep into that because I think you can make yourself crazy reading every parenting book, trying to get this idea of what it should be. And we've had friends that are great studiers, and they read a ton of books. And then the baby comes, and it's not like it was in the book. And so they're like, "What's wrong with us? Because the book said this." So we read a few simple books. We didn't do any classes. We just spent a lot of time together growing and preparing and kind of doling out what the roles were going to be ahead of time. And we've made it 6 years.
There you go. I love it. And I think if I can rewind my time frame back 27 years ago, when somebody in the hospital looked at me the first time and said, "Are you okay, Dad? Are you all right?" And it's like, wait a minute, what did you call me? What did you just say? Yeah. Did you just say Dad? Like no one's ever called me that before. I'm a 20-something-year-old guy, married, and no one's ever called me that. And it's like, and then to realize that the moment that you have your child, you're going to be a dad for the rest of your life. Like that is, you're completely changed from this group to this group in a moment in time. And you feel so out of sorts. You don't know what's up, what's down. And then when you walk out of the hospital with your newborn, nobody follows you home to make sure you're doing it correctly. They wave at you as the doors close and you jump in the car and that's it. You're like, really? Yeah. You trust me with this human being? Like, come on.
Yeah, like the only test you have to pass is can you put them in the car seat and they observe the baby in the car seat buckle and they're like, "You're qualified." And I'm like, there should be a higher bar for this. I had to take so many tests to do pharmacy, and my wife's a nurse practitioner. Same thing. It's like you're in charge of a human life, and all you have to do is show that you can put them in a car seat. Like that seems like give me a little bit more. So, right. And admittedly, like every baby is going to be different. Every family situation is going to be different. So there's no, I think to have a standard baby manual is probably not practical, but I think there's certainly some broad strokes you could follow to help on that path to success. But yeah, there's no official dad manual. And then you're just like, hey, in this moment, it's all about you. Yeah. And then the baby comes, and in that moment, it is now no longer about you. And I think that's giving up that sense of like self is maybe one of the hardest things. And I'll speak, pharmacists tend to be a little type A. So we kind of like things the way we like them. And we like control. And babies and little kids and older kids and toddlers, you got no control of that. No. So that was probably the biggest shock to my system for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so talk a little bit more about the book. What are we going to find as dads as we grab a copy and read it for the first time? What's your big dream hope for us as a reader?
My dream and hope for you as a reader is to not make the same mistakes that I've made in my 6 years. So it really is geared towards that person who's thinking about having kids. So that pre-contemplation up to about 5 years old, which is, I finished the initial draft of this when my son was about 5 years old. And what you're going to find in here are humorous stories of things that my wife and I have messed up. And I mean, mostly me. I can't throw her under the bus, but just little things and tips within the first year. Like you're handed this baby, right? You go back to your story. Oh my gosh, my world's upside down. And if you watch the movies, the TV, there's going to be, clouds parting, harps playing, angels singing. And the reality is this thing gets in your arms. My son peed on the doctor first, then they put him in my arms. I look at him and I try to whisper something like, I can't, I had this whole thing I was going to tell him the first thing I'm going to tell you is like, be like your grandpa and be like your other grandpa and don't be like me in this way. And then he's like, starts crying and he immediately is on my wife's
Yeah.
boob,
There you go.
like,
Sure.
oh, and then it's that for the next year, that is where he
Yeah.
is for the most
Yeah.
part. So getting over that initial year of like, this baby was attached to
Yeah.
mom inside and now it's attached to mom outside. And I mean, I felt helpless. Like, she's up all night with them. The baby he needs her. What do I do? And so a big part of the initial baby having plan here is you got to support mom
Yeah.
in every way you
Yeah.
can. And if you don't cook, learn. And I have some simple recipes for dads that are almost impossible to screw up.
Good.
So in the back, and then how to support the mom throughout the first years, and then in that transition as they get older, like how to manage expectations, how to deal with the fact that maybe before you had kids, you had a to-do list every morning and you crushed that to-do list every day. And now you have a kid and you get like one thing to do a day. Uh, and maybe two, maybe zero. And can you learn to be okay with that and not resent the kid for that? Because it's not their fault that you made them.
Yeah.
So, that's, initial stages of what was the shock to me at least.
Yeah. And then going back to that original comment to me about, are you okay, Dad? I think we don't get asked that often enough. I was asked that in the moment, like the doctor saying, if you pass out during delivery, no one's catching you. So just fall over there. We'll get to you later. We have other things to focus on. We're not here for you in the moment. And that moment, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You're not here. The doctor looking at me, I'm not here for you. I'm here for your wife. Right. And I'm like, oh, I just found my place. Okay, good. All right. If I fall, I faint, I'm on my own. And then, but again, when they say to you, are you okay, Dad? You hear it once in the moment, but you don't hear it like 6 months later when you haven't slept for days. You don't know, the house is a mess. You totally lost your schedule, right? And no one comes and asks you a second or third or 10th time, are you okay, Dad? And I think we need people to ask us that more often. Because I was struggling too. I'm trying to find my identity again, just like you. My son is attached to my wife, and their bond is strong, and I'm fighting for that bond and create that myself as a dad, and not knowing how to do so.
Yeah, well, you lose that bond with your wife because she becomes the center of the universe to the baby.
Yep.
The baby doesn't really, and it's not I'm not here to like take down babies. Again, it's not their fault. They like literally are biologically needing mom. That's the way nature has intended it. And then I'm glad you brought that up. I have a whole chapter in here called Dude Self-Care. Like, we got to learn to take care of ourselves. And it's not, when I hear self-care, I think of going to the spa, getting those cucumbers over your eyes. That's sort of maybe some dudes do that. I don't. But for me, where we've moved, we have a block of families with dads, with kids around the ages of our kids. So we go and the women are all older than the dads, so we call them the cougars, and then we're the manthers. So we have a whole little tribe together, which is amazing. We go for walks. We do dude self-care could literally mean you do a project together, or I'm building a shelf. Can you come help me with that? And while you're doing that, in the midst of that, you are expressing your concerns, your challenges. I have one of the group is willing to get up and go for a run with me once a week. Well, that run ends with a walk, and that walk usually ends up with a discussion of some challenge we have with our kids.
Nice.
Does it fix whatever's going on? No, but it sure as heck feels good to just talk about it and feel heard as a dude going through this as a dad.
Yeah. And we I guess that's the hard part for us, is trying to create that community. And I find as an older dad that my circle of friends is shrinking, which is weird.
Yeah.
I look at my wedding picture and I have all my groomsmen with me on that picture. Now, do I have a phone? Could I call them right now, 30 years later? I think I have one phone number out of the group of groomsmen that stood with me on that day. These are the best friends in my life, most closest people I've ever been with, who know me inside out. And I think I could reach out to one or two of them today. I'd have to do research to find the other ones. And I'm like, okay, as an older dad, I'm finding my circle falling apart. So anything we can do, like you're talking about, to reinforce that or find new community that we can be a dad in, I think we need to all do that. And that's hard work, though.
It does take work. And maintaining that's another big piece of what I talk about is what was once your relationships outside of kids sort of fades, and scheduling anything with friends or even family becomes a challenge because if you're working a typical 5-day work week, that means you get 2 days a week that you're not at work. 2 days a week to fit in family, friends, hobbies, chores, your kids, and then your kids start doing stuff. Like my kids are in Little League and soccer now. So your Saturday mornings are gone. I mean, I'm blessed to go coach them, but my selfish Saturday mornings are gone. And so how do you nurture those relationships with the people you care about? And, in this day and age, I think fortunately we have text messaging can be a huge distraction, but one of my best friends lives across the country from me, 3 time zones away. And we just text each other back and forth, whatever's going on with the family, challenges. We'll hop on a phone call if one of us is on a long drive. So I think the lesson there is that if you aren't careful, you might wake up and realize what happened to my friends. And someday my kids shall graduate from the house. And when they're gone, you want to have that crew together that you can share that with. And my dad has a golf trip he's done for 30 years. And I always thought, man, they love to go play golf. And as an adult, I get to go with them now. And I realized, oh, this is really nice. Like, I love my kids. I love my wife. It's nice to just get together with some dudes, hit golf balls, play poorly, talk about the world. And for me, it's learning from my elders. But yeah, it takes active work and an active relationship with your partner, your wife, to give each other that space too.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I think the big thing too, for me, is just that sense of identity as a dad. You don't know what a good dad looks like. You have a reference point from your family or television, you know what a Homer Simpson looks like. And you're like, I don't want to be that dad. And I guess it seems like in TV, dads are kind of portrayed as kind of a comedic relief. They're just that dummy in the corner, right? Right. And you're like, how come dads are portrayed like that all the time? I don't understand that. Yeah,
it makes me, as I observe it now, like it's not just the TV shows. Look at any TV commercial. Like it's dad's home alone with the kids and he doesn't know how to cook dinner, but mom will pick up dinner from, this restaurant. Like, I don't know. Is it so hard for dad? Why is the expectation that dads are lazy, unhealthy, can't cook, can't contribute? And the opposite end of the spectrum of that is if you go on social media and you look at, say Instagram or Twitter, and then you see the best of dads portraying themselves in the best light, there's like this huge chasm of the terrible ones portrayed, and then the elite portrayed. And again, here we are. I look around, again, the observation from the book. People are on their phones. They're checked out. They're angry. And I get angry at my kids. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I don't get frustrated. But there seems to be no effort in improving that. And so if we could suck a little less and not need to be elite, I think we could really raise the floor of dads all over the world.
What from dad kingdom knowledge do you hear and go, no, that doesn't work for me as a dad? It might be a popular opinion about how to parent, but in my situation, my home, where everybody's telling us to go one direction, I'm going to go the other way.
I think it's this resentment towards your kids. There's this sort of a lot of the and I'm as a comedian, I'm looking for what other air quote funny dads saying, and it's a lot of this almost disbelief at how air quote dumb their toddlers are, and this like, I don't know, what do you expect? Have you interacted with adults? Adults are unreasonable. So you take a human that's unreasonable and you reduce years of experience, they're going to be unreasonable. I also think one of the big things that gets me is this, and I just talked about this idea of dude self-care, but my wife went out of town for 3 days a few weeks ago, left me alone with 3 kids under 6 at the time.
Wow.
It's a lot of work. And I mean, my wife does it when I go out and speak, but the resounding feeling is like, oh, I'm stuck with the kids versus like, I get to be with my kids for 3 days. It's going to be hard work. And there was certainly a moment where we had a stomach ache, 2 butts to wipe, a kid throwing a tantrum. Like it was like the cover of my book, like basically tells the story of me, like I'm just like screaming, oh my gosh. But I learned a lot in that moment. I kept my cool. We got through it. And I will say it was really fun by the end of the 3 days. Like I was picking up on cues that for my baby, oh, I think she's hungry or I think she's tired. Because I haven't had a chance to spend that time with her. So I don't know. I think the expectations are like we have these kids and they should just like get raised versus you got to do the work to raise them.
Yeah. I can remember being a young dad as well, going out with my kids. giving my wife a break. I used to do like Saturday mornings. I would take the kids and go do something, and she could have the morning to do whatever she wants, sleep in, just do whatever, right? Just not be a mom for a few hours. I grab the kids, throw them in the car, or go somewhere. Usually like a play area, like an indoor play place or whatever, whatever. And we go out, and people who know us would come up to me and go, "Oh, is your wife working today?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? Are you watching the kids while your wife's busy?" I'm like, "Watching my wife's kids? No, these are my kids. I'm not a nanny. These are my children."
Are you babysitting
right?
your kid? Yeah.
And then I'm like, "Wait a minute." And I asked my wife, when you're out with the kids, does anybody walk up to you and go, "Oh, are you watching the kids while Dave's at work?" No, nobody ever asked her that, right? Because you're the mom.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, why is that? Why am I seem to be the babysitter and she's the parent? I'm like, maybe it's our fault as dads. Are we not stepping into that role the way we should? Why is that perception there that I'm just there to watch the kids?
Yeah. It's I think for a long time it was the male was the breadwinner of the house, and there was like a sort of traditional role. And now we live in a world where wives can be I joke my she's the baconator. She brings home the most bacon in the house since I work less. And so that means I spend a couple days with the kids, and it's having the chance to bond with them. I think my hope is that compounds. The idea of compound interest with money is cool, but I would like to think that the idea of compound time with your kids at a young age, hopefully now spending time when they're young will compound when they're older, and it helps to strengthen that eventual adult relationship or teenage relationship that we have.
Yeah.
But I think that the expectations for what dads do to help raise kids is honestly pretty low. The bar is very low, and many dads still aren't clearing it. And I see it, observing it with some family, some friends, where we're at a gathering, and the dad's just sitting there watching sports on their phone, doing their little online betting and drinking a beer, which I have no problem if you like a cold frosty one on the weekends and watch, like I like watching the baseball game here. But if you're working 5 days a week and you get the 1 day or 2 days off with your kids and you're spending it checked out, you're missing a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's the unfortunate thing that talking to a lot of parents when I was making the transition to going to part-time, we bounce ideas off people, talk to people who've been in the trenches as a dad, as a mom. And I said, I'll be working less to spend time with the kids. 0 people said, you'll regret that. Every one of them said, I wish I could have done the same thing, or I'm glad I did do the same thing, or you'll never regret this. Yeah. And so hearing that, and we get advice from people who seem to be happy and have good relationships with their kids, but if given the opportunity to spend that time and to be a bigger part of your kid's life, I think it would solve a lot of issues with our youth and young adults too.
Yeah, I heard a speaker recently, and he said you have 19 years with your kids, and I'm like, He said you'll have 18 years in a row, 1 year for 18 years, while they're in school and doing all that. But when in that 19th year, that 1 year, the 19th year is spread out over the remainder of your lifetime with that child. You're not going to see them as much. They're going to go away to school. They're going to get married. They're going to move to another state or province here in Canada. They're going to be gone. They're going to be not in your orbit the way they are when they're in their first 18 years. So 18, 19, that's not a big number. When you look at it, that's 19 summers. That's 19 birthdays. That's not a huge number, right? And I think when I was an early dad, I didn't understand or grasp time and how fast it goes by as a dad. I wish I could go back. I really could. I really wish I could. All 3 of my kids are out of the house. We're empty nesters. I have all their junk is here. All their stuff is here. I make them pay to come in the house to get their stuff because it's like a storage bin now. But they're gone, and I'm not allowed to get rid of anything. I have to keep it all. But it's just a weird feeling to not know that everyone's under the same roof. At night when you shut off the lights and lock the front door, they're not here. And that's the weirdest feeling ever as a dad. Because when I remember when my first was born, somebody walked up to me, put their arm around me and said, get used to having your heart beat outside of your chest for the rest of your life. That's what it's like to be a dad. And I'm like, oh, because you have this human and they're going to go off and do things and go and be places that you'll never be. and it's like your heart is beating outside of your body. It's the weirdest feeling ever.
Yeah, and we're already getting that as the oldest has gone and started going to school and hearing about the conflicts at school, and he did this to my thing, or they stole that from me, and hearing my poor son's as gullible as me. My father's a gullible man, and I inherited that a lot of those traits. But hearing like I'll swap you this, give me your dollar gold coin, and I'll give you my $60 pirate gold coin. He's like, oh my gosh, $60, and you just want to be like, hey man, he's pulling over on you. But at the same time, he's got to learn those lessons, and it hurts. It hurts to see them have those pains and those challenges. But if they never have those pains and challenges, then they'll never learn to understand those. And it's and our second son, when he was born, went into the NICU for a day.
Mm.
So like the first one was easy peasy, out of the hospital a couple of days, and then he ended up in the NICU. It was only like a half a day, but it was not what we expected. And it is, when you say the heart's on the outside of your body like that, I felt less. My first son, I was ready. It was like a fun atmosphere. I took this funny picture of me with a catcher's mitt at my wife's feet, like ready to go. Like, here we go. We're having a baby. And the second one, it was during 2020, June of 2020. So like peak COVID. So it was just her and me. So a lot less jovial atmosphere. And then he ends up in the NICU with fluid in his lungs. And my wife and I are both in healthcare. So we have a basic understanding of what's going on. And after that one, I said, honey, I can't do this again. I know you've thought about a third kid, but I don't think I can handle the pain of this again. And he's fine. I mean, he was out in half a day. He keeps up with his brother. He stabbed him with a fork the other day. He's doing just fine. So he's 2 years behind his big brother and keeps up with him pretty good. So that didn't slow him down. But that, as you said,
Scary.
those moments of like, sheer terror, pain, unknown, and yet the irrational human brain said, let's make another one.
Yeah.
So, but I think that experience was good for us because we got a taste after basically 2 years of pretty smooth sailing with the first one, having that strong challenge and preparing us for what is inevitably going to be more challenges to come.
Yeah. And so you said you have 3 children?
Yes.
So baby number 3, how old?
10 months.
10 months. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. She's very sweet. She's very cute. And it's a good thing because she don't sleep good. So there's, she knows how to play us and she knows how to just, keep us up at night, but still like, oh, but you're so sweet and quiet compared to your rambunctious brothers.
Okay. So 2 boys and then a girl.
Yeah.
Okay. Parenting is different child to child. It's not one size fits all, right? It doesn't all work the same. So now that you have a daughter, that's a different part of a dad's heart than 2 boys that are slamming each other and you can throw them around as, it's very rough and tumble. There's a different side of you as a dad that appears the moment you find out you're having a daughter. How are you different between the boys?
I hope they never hear this, but I'm much more patient with her. Even as a baby, I think I never hung around kids much before we had kids. So I did not have a very good understanding of developmental milestones and what is an appropriate expectation. My wife had spent more time with our nieces and nephews. So my first one has borne the brunt of my ignorance. My second one has, he's also a little bit like less of a tester of emotion. So I've been better with him. But with the baby, and as a girl, I'm like, I really have a hard time raising my voice to you. But my boys, it's a little easier the trigger's a little shorter with them. But yeah, I would say there's a softer, sweeter side that has come out. I wish I could say I was not different with the first 2, but it has been different in that sense. And I think it's been good that she's the third one because I've had the practice on the first 2 to understand the baby flow and their communication and their milestones. And I'll just be real. She's also, aside from the sleep, she's been, knock on wood, super easy.
Yeah.
We have some friends with a daughter around the same age who's just been a bigger challenge. Yeah. They were stopping at 1.
Yeah.
They knew they were done at 1 after about 3 weeks of the first one. And we went with the third and we gambled, but yeah, it's been a fun, different dynamic. And honestly though, if she's anything like her mom, she'll be a rough and tumble, just like her brother. So
yeah. And right now the 2 of you are now outnumbered by 3 kids. So good luck to you. That's fun.
Zone defense, the wrong side of
Right.
zone.
And so the one thing for us, I have a boy, girl, boy. That's our makeup. And when we had our daughter, my wife was so excited because then she could do girly things, right? But when my
Yeah.
daughter was young, she had long, long hair and a ponytail. And I was the only one allowed to do the ponytail. By no
Oh,
means
really?
am I an expert on anything to do with hair at all.
Hmm.
But my wife would go to do her ponytail and she's like, no, daddy, do it. And that was like, I'd get the look like from my wife to me, like I set this up. I'm like, I'm just here. No, I wasn't my idea, but I was the only one allowed to do her ponytails. So I don't know how that all works, but yeah, anyways, it's interesting how again, the bond between dad and daughter
Hmm.
is something you get a softer side of you that just seems to come out when you have a
Hmm.
daughter. I don't know. That's how I experienced it.
I would say that that is definitely my experience too. And we like to have these like premonitions or feelings of like what our children will be like as far as a relationship because the two boys, my gosh, they're mama's boys. And as they've gotten older and we've had the ability to do more of the wrestling and the fun things like that, they gravitate to that with me. Although my wife does jujitsu, so she like
Oh,
is all I know. I don't mess with her. Uh she she likes to be rough and tumble with them too. But with the girl, it's we have this idea that she's gonna be the one with me, like going to like the baseball games and keeping score and being more into what I'm into. I don't know if that'll be, but I just have this vision that would be pretty cool because my wife is a daddy's girl and she spent a lot of time doing things with her dad.
nice.
So that's my thought. Talk to me in 13 years. We'll
Yeah,
see what the
we'll have you
relationship's
back. We'll
like.
have you back.
Yeah,
Sure.
put it on the calendar. 13 years,
We'll
2037.
set that up right now. I'll get my people to talk to your people. Let's make that happen. I like it.
Exactly.
You'll probably have another 13 books by then, too. That'd be great. Okay, so talk about your speaking and all that stuff in your comedy career. I love this. This is great. Take us up on
Yeah.
stage. Tell us where do you go? What do you do with all this?
Yeah, so I guess I'll take a little further step back and give a further professional background. So I'm a pharmacist. I've been one since 2011. I grew up loving comedy. So we talk about Homer Simpson. That's what I learned. That's what I learned what dads were like. I'm for better or worse, my parents had a TV in my room at age 6, and I was watching The Simpsons at age 6, and they basically said, just do the opposite of what Bart did. And it turned out pretty good for me. I was a good student, loved comedy, and went to college. And they had an improv comedy group there that I went and saw, blown away, loved it. And naturally, I didn't do any of pursue it because I was a dutiful pharmacy student. In retrospect, it was dumb, but hey,
Yeah.
I was all business. 2013, I took my first improv comedy class in Tucson here, and it was a new theater, and I loved the class. Took another class, ended up being a performer, a teacher, ran the comedy school, was a coach of improv teams for several years, and then I had my first son in 2018, and that pull to stay home got stronger and stronger. And I'm in Tucson, Arizona. We're not exactly known as a hotbed of comedy. It's not LA, Chicago, New York, and we're happy here. And I was not going to pursue. I was not interested at the time of pursuing like a career in comedy. And I thought, what can I do to push this comedy career more now that I don't have the time to perform as much? And in the process of doing improv, I realized that it really improved my listening, communication, empathy skills as a pharmacist. Because pharmacists are wired, again, very left
Yep.
brain, type A, like things the way we like them, not known for our sense of humor. So the bar is low if we want to do comedy to pharmacists. And so I started speaking to pharmacy and other healthcare organizations on how to apply improv comedy to improve the healthcare experience, to make it more adaptable, more empathetic, more humanizing as a patient and provider. And in 2022, I published a book on that subject called Permission to Care. So for my speaking, I go and generally have worked with healthcare organizations, but I also speak to businesses on building an adaptable environment, helping to develop what's called divergent thinking to have better ways of solving problems. And I'll speak, I'll do workshops. And so I work part-time as a pharmacist, I speak, and then I write these books.
Nice.
So, and then as far as performing comedy, every month or two, I'll get up on stage here at our theater in Tucson and perform. It's like I was saying, with 3 kids under 6, any commitment away from home is hard. And improv is famously not well compensated or paid. Like you perform for free basically, which is fine. I do it for the love of the game. But if I'm going to be gone, it's nice to earn a paycheck. So like when I go speak, I can earn a fee and justify my wife wearing it for 2 days while I'm gone.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take your improv skills and adapt it to dads. Okay, because we're going to learn on the fly. We're going to have to do a lot of yes ands in
Oh my
dadness,
gosh, you know the
right?
lingo.
Come
All
on,
right.
right? So give us some practical dad things that we can do and how improv can have an impact on our dad journey. Come on, teach, come on.
Absolutely. See, all right, let's do it. So you said the two magic words. So improv comedy is all based on this idea of yes and, which just basically means we agree and we build together. So if I'm on stage and you said to me, we're on the moon, and I said, we're not on a moon, we're in a bounce house. Well, I totally negated your reality. We will have to rebuild the world, justify why we thought you were on the moon, and it just brings everything to a grinding halt. What yes and means would be we're on the moon and I say yes, and we only have 30 seconds of oxygen left. I've agreed to the premise, I've added to it, and I've built this scene moving forward. Well, how does this apply to us as a dad? Well, yes and essentially means we accept reality on reality's terms. As a dad, I think the biggest pain points I've encountered personally, and I've observed other places, are parents trying to force a different reality on the situation. For us, many times it could be one kid gets sick, you had plans to go somewhere, and people will just try to like force it, and we're going to go anyway. Or sitting around wishing we could have gone on that vacation, which happened to us. We had a big trip across the country planned in 2022 that got scuttled because our kids got sick. I had a trip this year actually by myself to go to the beach for a health conference that I had to stay home because everyone got hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Beautiful.
So that was super fun. Wouldn't want to go to the beach in Florida when I could stay home and deal with people with rashes and fevers, right? So I'm not going to say that when we say yes and we're happy that we missed the vacation or we're happy that we're late going somewhere. But when we can learn to accept reality, it takes some of that pressure off. It helps to manage our expectations. And then it helps us to adapt in the moment. Another big part of improv is listening. And I think that moms, dads, human beings suck at listening. Improv teaches you to live in the moment. Improv is not about telling jokes or thinking of the funniest line. It's about listening and responding in the moment. And if you want to be a great dad, a great husband, you got to listen to your kid in the moment and really hear what they're saying. And again, accept that reality. So I'll give an example. My two kids play Little League. They're both doing a level called Coach's Pitch instead of T-ball. The little one's playing up with the big brother because mommy and daddy are lazy and don't want to send them to two practices, and we know the coach. And the little one's pretty athletic. But the last few games, he's had some moments because he's still not even 4 yet, where he'll start crying or get overwhelmed. And the hardcore dad would not accept this and say, son, you have to stick it out. We're on the baseball field. You have to take this at bat. But for me, my goal is to keep them enjoying the game so they keep playing. So yes, you are upset and you want to go sit with mom in the stands and eat peanuts? Go do that. We're not keeping score. Who cares? There's no scouts here who's gonna say this guy's weak. So we're not gonna remember the at bat he missed when he was 3, but he could get traumatized if daddy's yelling at him and forcing him to stay in the field.
Right.
So that was just one example of adaptability and acceptance and kind of letting go. And improv is a lot about letting go of control as well.
And I guess the other part of it too would be the humor side for dads. There's going to be days where nothing's funny. Everything's hard, but you do need to celebrate. You do need to find the joy and the laughter in your house.
Oh, for sure.
How do we bring more humor into our house? How do we make things light, happy, and fun for our family? What do we do?
I think don't take anything that's not too seriously too seriously. There's no point in getting upset about the minutia of life because it will just drive you insane. How can we find the humor of it? Laugh at the absurdity. I tell a story in my book, and this goes back to listening because kids are always listening to us. And so I'm cleaning up. My oldest son had a diaper accident. He pooped. It was a mess. And this was at an age where he was starting to talk and kind of parrot what we were saying. And I don't know how PG this podcast is, but I like open up his diaper. I'm like, oh, it's all over your sack. Because move forward. Yeah. And mom comes home later and I hear him say, all over the sack, all over the sack.
Oh no,
I'm like,
he's a parrot.
Oh. In that moment, I could be upset with myself, but my wife laughed at it. We laughed at it. Eventually he stopped saying it. But I think in those absurd moments, we can laugh at it. And then when we laugh, we remember the lesson. And I'll never forget him saying that. And I'll always do my best to not repeat things in front of my kids that I do not want them to repeat. Or I think the laughter too comes from that letting go of control. So One other example I write about is we took a trip to Yellowstone National Park here in the United States here a couple years ago, and brought my parents because they're getting older and they've always wanted to go. And so, if you have a chance to bring your elderly parents and your toddlers to Yellowstone, don't unless it's time's running out for everyone. And we wanted to travel before the younger one was 2 because I'm cheap, so I didn't have to buy a plane ticket for anyway. But I mean, it's this week-long trip. We're driving around. We're seeing the bison. We're fighting with tantrums. But we're seeing this amazing scenery. My mom and dad had a great time seeing what they wanted to see. And on the flight home, we're not big iPad users, but on the plane, any port in a storm, especially this was the flight home after 7 days, like, I don't care. Just sit in your seat for 3 hours. You can watch Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. We get home, and I ask Jake, hey, what was your favorite part of that big trip to Yellowstone? And he says, Sonic. I'm like, oh, okay. How many thousands of dollars and miles we drove, and you wanted Sonic, and okay, that was it. So, and it's those moments. I think choosing to laugh rather than to get upset is where it's at. Yeah. For a comedian, I'm terrible with dad jokes. I really don't go to the well that much with them. But I think that as my kids get older and have developed more of a sense of humor and embarrassment of me or from me, I'll gear up for that.
Yeah. Oh, I got a list of dad jokes for you. If you ever need them, my wife says I'm horrible. So that's good. That's good feedback. I like that. So yeah. My recent one I played on her, if we're going to trade jokes here, as, how did the farmer find his wife? A tractor.
Oh my gosh, that's
Come on, right? It's a tractor.
So it took me a millisecond to process because on Zoom sometimes you lose. Yeah. Like if we were in the moment, I would have got that right away.
Of course,
there was a millisecond delay, but I think that slight pause actually adds to the comedy of it.
And I can edit that in post as well. So it's going to sound awesome. I'll have a crowd behind me and clapping and everything. It'll be great.
Oh my God. Yeah. Put the laugh track in. Yeah. That was, you get 10 out of 10 on that.
There you go. Right.
I married a farmer's daughter.
Oh,
so
there you go.
You
might have to recycle that one.
Joke.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So Cory, your website, where do we connect with you? All that great stuff. Let's send people there. You've been so gracious with your time. You probably have diapers to change. So, hey, where do we go? What do we do?
We're gonna go on the internet. We'll start on the internet. If you go to my website, CoryJenks.com, and that's my parents were cheap. They didn't buy an E in Cory, so it's CoryJenks.com. You'll find all the links to all the things I do. I'm on all of the different social medias. If you want more daily content from me, you can. But from my website, you'll be able to find my books. There's a pre-order as we record this now, but the book comes out on Mother's Day. So, because what better gift to give mom than being a great dad? It's called I Guess I'm a Dad Now, a humorous handbook for newish dads who don't want to suck. I got a nice set of pre-order bonuses. There's some additional resources as far as recipes, my workout that I do to stay in shape, some dad travel checklist items, some dad gear suggestions. And because I'm not famous yet, none of them have an affiliate link to Amazon because I don't have enough of a following. So if you think I'm doing this just to get rich, you're wrong. I really legitimately just earnestly want to help you, Dad. And there's some different tiers if you order $1 or $5 or $10, or if you order 100, I'll pretty much do whatever you ask me to do. But because your listeners are amazing and you've been so kind, when you do the pre-order, if you order one and you email me and you mention this podcast, I will give you the 5-tier bonus because you're great.
There you go. Love it.
So you can order all that there. And then for my website, if you want to contact me, you can. You can email me from the website. It's just Cory@CoryJenks.com. And if you're on the socials, various ones, connect, chat with me. Tell me what you loved about this podcast. Tell me what you hated about it. It's okay. I got a thick skin. I have 3 kids, so I can handle it.
Remember the yes and, right, as dads. Yeah. And that's one thing you did say earlier that I loved. You said, keep enjoying the game and keep playing. And I'm like, Cory, that's gold right there. I love that. So that's going to probably be the title of this episode, just because you said it, and that was gold. So thank you for that. Again, thank you for doing this. And thank you for letting us jump on stage with you and learn a little bit of improv and learn from your dad's story at the same time. It's great.
It was a blast. This is the best part of writing the book, is talking to awesome dads such as yourself, gleaning the wisdom, hearing your stories, and hitting the airwaves internationally.
There you go. All around the world, everyone, all the people at Dad Space World, you have to go check out Cory. Go take him up on his offer, head over to the website, and when you see him on stage, make sure you are not a heckler. You're a lover and a supporter of all that Cory does. Thank you so much, Cory, for being on the podcast. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space today. I'm so thankful that you were here for this episode. If you like the show, please let another dad know. Hey, that kind of rhymed. Anyways, share the episode out with somebody in your circle who would love Dad Space. That means so much to us here for our guests who donate their time to be on the show. And we just want to see this grow. So, again, another rhyme. Oh, wow. Anyhow, I think I need to write a song or something. Thank you for being here with Dad Space. And again, looking forward to the next episode. Look forward to having you here again with us. And if we can help you in any way, if you have a great guest idea for the show, a topic that you would love us to cover, we would love to do that here on Dad Space. So thanks for listening and thanks for being part of the community. And to you, Dad, thank you for listening and thank you for sharing Dad Space. Catch you on the next one. Take care.